Hello, everybody. Mike Donahue here with your friend, my friend.
Everybody's friend, Brian May.
Everybody's friend. We are in a cold spell here, Brian. We got 5 inches of snow in Kearney, Nebraska yesterday. Had to shovel out. You got some snow too, right?
Yeah, we got maybe 3, a little bit more here. I was hoping for 6 to 12, but
Yeah.
So it goes.
I miss those days, man. I mean, I grew up in New England. It seemed like every winter we were just snowed in. I remember the blizzard of '78, where we had like a month off of school because
Yeah.
a storm came up from like from the south, went out, it hit us. So 20 inches of snow, which is a lot of snow. Came out, went back out into the ocean, came back and hit us again with about 35 inches of snow.
Yeah.
There were drifts that were bigger than my house. Like we
Yeah.
could walk onto the roof of my garage from my backyard.
Yeah.
Like it was nuts.
Yeah.
And so I miss those days.
Yeah. I long for those winters when, you get about a foot or so of snow on the ground, maybe a little bit more, all piled up in December, and it, sticks around until April. I mean, if we're going to have winter, let's have some snow, man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So,
all right, so we got some comments, Brian. Would you start us out with your? I saw them, but I didn't respond because I was like,
yeah. Well, one comment in particular. Someone talked to us about our meager following and how it's going to take us 5 million years to spread the word, and that got me thinking. And I mean, y'all get on and read my response, but to be clear, this podcast is not about expanding the kingdom, whatever you want to call it. But what we do want to say is that if you're going to call yourself a Christian, if you're going to identify with Jesus Christ, then maybe you ought to strive to live a lifestyle that, at least looks remotely familiar to the Sermon on the Mount, rather than some of the very sorry, sad, pathetic expressions of, corporate and commercial Christianity, numbers-based Christianity, my church is bigger than your church Christianity that we see around the country. I mean, personally, everybody's got to find their own path. So we're not trying to tell anybody what to do and how to live, but we are here to critique these expressions of Christianity that, as I noted in my comment, are decidedly anti-Christ.
Yeah, and I echo that. This isn't a podcast to try to win anybody over to a way of thinking.
Yeah.
This is to challenge people who are calling themselves believers of Jesus Christ to a higher standard,
right?
A higher standard than your pastor.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we, a pastor who was hailed for years. I mean, going back to the 90s,
Yep.
I remember this guy, being heralded as one of the prophets of, our time. Mike Bickle, report came out. Brian, you sent it to me. I haven't read the report yet from was it called the Friars?
I don't remember the exact
report name, but there was a report. They did a independent report on Mike Bickle, and now 17 women have come out and now have gotten detailed about coercion and all kinds of stuff. I'll let you, once you kind of recap that. We want to, for next week's podcast, for next Sunday, we're gonna unpack this, but we kind of want to talk a little bit about it. Why don't you start us off, Brian?
Yeah. The report's called the Firefly Report, which is also the name of my favorite science fiction series, but on FX. But that aside, so this official report had come out as an independent investigation. The people who conducted the report have a law enforcement background, so these folks know what they're doing. And what they revealed was that over the course of decades, Mike Bickle, there are allegations that Mike Bickle abused at least 17 women who have come forward, some of them while they were minors. Um, we've talked about this before. I think it's pretty safe to say if there's 17, then there's more. But so not only as I read through this thing, Mike, did I see that there was a pattern of abuse. I mean, yeah, pretty strong pattern of abuse, allegedly on Mike Bickle's part. But as you read through this, I discovered something I didn't know before, but there are at least 16 other documented incidents of abuse by staff members at IHOP. In addition to those 17, another 16 allegations. And again, if there's 16, then you can ramp that number up. I don't know what the multiplier is, but there's always more. The shocking thing about those additional 16 is the report goes into detail that talks about the culture in leadership at IHOP that worked very hard to keep these people quiet and used all the spiritual words and tactics and those kinds of things to cover for people who I can only imagine they deemed valuable for the ministry and to protect the brand, rather than, as we often talk about here, protecting the victims.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I read in the article was that they would use Matthew 18 to, bring the perpetrator in, the person who, I don't think Mike Bickle was in any of these meetings, maybe he was, but they brought the perpetrator in with this person, and if this person said they were sorry, or if the perpetrator said they were sorry, then they would, shame this person into basically keeping quiet, saying, well, he said he was sorry, so, you need to forgive him and, move on and don't call the police. I mean, that was the
Right.
the overall theme. Don't call the police. Don't call any kind of accountability, outside source that could hold us accountable for what happened on the inside. And that's just sickening to me.
Yeah.
And it triggers me because that's what I was a part of with Jeannie Mayo.
Yep.
I mean, there was things that were happening that got covered up, and those people were told, do not call the police, do not go outside the family, to handle this. We'll handle it in house, almost like the mafia, and it's just crazy.
Right.
It makes me angry. That part, the whole thing is disgusting, but the idea that these people would just cover this up and allow these men and these women to be abusive is just sickening to me. And I really do think that that's the millstone thing. I don't know. I'm not a prophet, but man, you start messing with children and you don't do anything to stop it.
Right.
That's millstone time. I mean, you're going to pay a price.
100%. Part of that price is you got to wake up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror, and you got to live with that.
Yeah.
So chills nearly ran up and down my spine as I was reading through one account, and one of the victims was told, this is in several accounts, don't worry, we'll handle this. And that is almost verbatim what, our friend, Jen, was allegedly told to keep her quiet when the similar kinds of things were happening, under my tenure when I was at the school that the church ran. And it reminds me of, the Book of Solomon, right? There's nothing new under the sun. There's a playbook here, and these people know how to run that playbook. They are very skilled, and it is very nefarious. And the last thing I want to do is make people cynical. But you said at the beginning, we're not trying to get people to think a different way. No, we're not trying to get people to think, our way. We're trying to get people to think. Let's just start there. Let's start at thinking.
Boom.
So,
Yeah.
I look forward to unpacking this a little bit, and we can sort of get back to the roots of this podcast in some ways, and hopefully we can help people to develop a more critical eye and a more critical ear and a more critical heart for the kinds of relationships that they'll allow themselves into. And I just want to say one more thing to the guy that kind of chided us for having such a multitude of following. The other thing I'll say about that is, you know, Mike and I aren't trying to build a gazillion followers here. We're trying to reach the people that this discussion matters to and try to help them. So,
exactly right.
yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day. They called me out of the blue. Sarah Kotchenberg. Actually, we want to have her on sometime soon. She said, "We, what do you think of the book? Like, how do you feel about what the book has done?" And I'm very happy with it. I'm not,
Yeah.
it hasn't sold millions of copies or anything like that. I never set out to.
Right.
If I wanted to, there's marketing techniques I could have used. If I wanted it to go outside, and make it a thing. First of all, I would have written it different. Um, I would have added some things to it that would have been more consumable for the general public.
Yeah.
This was specific to help people that were hurt by her.
Yeah.
That were hurt by Jeannie and hurt by that system that we were in. And yeah, I'm sure people can read it that are outside of that and they get a lot out of it. Good, that's great. But my goal was to be a voice to those people who saw corruption, couldn't put their finger on it, but somebody from the inside, me, who knows where the bodies are buried, says, "Yep, you were right." And that's so I'm really happy
Yep.
with it. I don't need a million people following it. I want the people who really are going to benefit from it to benefit from it, and that's I feel like that's happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a former student who's become a good friend is I've been meeting with this person and having coffee, and we're trying to or he's trying. He'd love to get a group of old alumni from those days back together for coffee on a regular basis. So those are the kind of people we want to reach. Those are the kinds of people we want to connect again over that shared experience and find it.
And I'll just say this too, Brian. If it was just for Jennifer Christensen, if it was just for her, I'm good
100%.
because that changed that girl's life.
Yep.
That whole thing changed her life, and I think what we've done to bring a little bit of light to it and to validate her pain and validate what happened to her, I think that is worth it 100%.
100%. We love you, Jen.
Yeah, we do. All right. Well, we'll see you guys Sunday night.
All right.
Groomed in 10. Brian and I are killing it.
On fire.
Hundreds of followers. Tens of followers.
Dozens.
Hey, man. Dozens of followers. Hey, by the way, like and subscribe so we can shut this guy up. All right. See you later.
See you.